Feel free to raise your hand or put them in chat or in the Q&A. Also, I've put in chat, we do have a veterans ERG here. So I encourage those who are veterans or those who just want to learn more about what it's like to be a veteran to join. And I've put that in the chat as well. It was just, yes, really, really incredible. Julie, I saw your hand go up and then down. I wasn't sure if you just were making a comment or if you had a question. Okay, well, I do have a question that I was thinking about as you were speaking.
Sure.
Which is one that really relates to corporate life. And you know, there was an announcement this morning with the company about some changes that may be coming, and I think we're used to it. In a big company, there are always changes coming. And so if I, reflect on your role in the military, I assume there were many, many times where you didn't know what was next in terms of what your mission would be or what country you were even going to. How did you keep yourself in a frame of mind to, be at your best and maybe not spend so much time worrying about what would be, or maybe you did, I don't know, but just how would you approach that, or what advice do you have for us?
Yeah, I could say, similar to corporate America, in the military, change is inevitable and constant and dynamic. And you would get a mission that would come down, and you would go spin up and do an exercise, and you'd spend 4 hours, 5 hours building this plan just to find out a couple hours later the mission has completely shifted and changed. And so you start to learn how to just accept that that's going to be the environment which you are living in. It doesn't make it easy, and you find solace among your peers and those around you. You can gripe and complain to those that are at the same level as you or below you, but you learn, like, you don't complain uphill, and you just accept the mission, and you try to understand what the overall intent is of what you're trying to accomplish. And if you can remember that you came to Charles River for a reason, what's the mission statement at Charles River? And if you know that your leadership's trying to make the best decision they can within the information that they have, the changing environment, the economic and political landscape that we consistently navigate, and the organization has your best interest at heart, I think that's the place to start from. And I try to remember that. It's no different at Liberty Mutual. It's no different in the military. And we're constantly changing based off of what's happening in the environment. And that's part of a skill set that I think veterans particularly bring, is that they know how to shift that mindset and that framework quickly, because the battlefield is so dynamic. And when I say battlefield, it could be kinetic conflict overseas, or it could just be we're responding to a hurricane, or we're just bringing soldiers in for drill on the weekend, and how do we get chow to them? Those are challenges. And sometimes chow doesn't show up on time, and soldiers are hungry, and so officers open their wallet and pay for it out of their pocket. Those are, you just change on the fly, and you learn that that's the environment that we're in. It doesn't make it easier for everybody, but find your battle buddy that you can relate to and talk to. Understand that things are being done with the best intention as best as you can. And if it still doesn't resonate with you, have an open conversation with your leader about why it's making you feel that way. And I think that opens the door to have an effective path forward.
Thank you for that. I think we're really lucky that we do have a powerful mission to create healthier lives. And so, it's a good reminder to ground in that. I see in the chat, Rodney has a question. For those that have seen combat, does the Army try to provide mental support to help minimize potential PTSD?
Yeah, they do.
Any insight on that?
They do, yeah. And I would say for all branches, the military, the VA in general, has gotten better. So we all hear the horror stories of World War II and Vietnam, Korea, some of the battles and conflicts that where maybe soldiers didn't necessarily get the resourcing that's necessary. I'll say that veterans are also very stubborn individuals. We don't ask for help. That's just part of our DNA. We'd get a mission from the commander, it would roll down, and you wouldn't ask for help. You would just get it done. You'd figure out your resources that you had, and you would accomplish it. And you see that same skill set come into the workforce here, where veterans are less likely to raise their hand and ask questions. And so it is, for you allies out there, if you lead veterans or have veterans on your team, know that that's likely their default mechanism, and they're gonna just operate within silence. What I'll say is, if you're willing to get the help with PTSD, the help is there. I'm a 100% disabled combat veteran. Most of my disability is around PTSD. I had to self-disclaim that though, and it took me 18 years to come to the grips that I have PTSD and that I need the support. And so because I recognize that I need support, I reached out to the VA. I now have the VA rating, and I have lifelong resources that are available to me. I have counseling every week with a therapist. I have, and it's really become a performance management therapist now, but without that conversation weekly, I feel lost. And so that person's there to connect me. If you need to see psychiatrists, they're there for you. If you need additional resources, they're there, but you have to ask. And so I think that's the misconception that exists today, is that the resources aren't there for soldiers. I'll say that a lot of soldiers just don't ask for the resources.
Thank you for this. There's another question in the chat from Mary Miller. Eric, what is your advice on how we can best support someone who we know who will soon be retiring from the military?
Yeah, it's gonna be a big challenge for them. And what I'd say is, be there for them. I heard something profound at the Texas Women's Conference the other day too. It's, we're having 3 conversations when we're having a conversation with someone now. Is it a social conversation? Is it an emotional conversation? Is it a practical conversation? And if you're not on the same wavelength as each other, you're not speaking the same language. And so they boil it down to say, teachers nowadays say, should I help you, hug you, or help you, right? Or was it hug you, help you, or I can't remember the third, but it's simple as, what does that veteran need? They're going to go through a difficult time. Just be there for them. Ask how you can help them. How can I make your day easier? Can I help translate your resume? Can I help connect you with people? The simple things in the military that you didn't have to worry about, the clothing aspect. I wore the same thing every year for 20 years. I didn't have to think about, what do I wear in a corporate environment? How do I show up in a meeting looking professional but not over the top? Those little things, veterans don't think about. And so find a way to connect with them on those things as they try to make that journey and go across. The little things that you all take for granted, it's a different world in the military. Everything is pre-positioned, everything's programmed. And so they have to now go out of that. I got a haircut every Friday at 2:00 in the military. I still get a haircut every Friday at 2:00 with my barber, even though I'm not in the military anymore. And those habits and behaviors won't change. But when you go in the corporate environment, like I said earlier, there's going to be things that don't translate well, and it's your job as allies to maybe recognize that and help veterans see it, because they're not going to see it unless someone points it out to them.
Thank you for that. John Farrar raises a great comment in the chat. I would love if you could speak to the stereotype, because I think it is out there. He said, I once worked with someone, not at Charles River, who didn't want to hire veterans because they assumed they'd be rigid, too black and white. I wish they'd been able to hear what you had to say and how valuable veterans are in the corporate world. But do you have any comments on that, with when people have that assumption that it's very black and white and they won't be flexible coming into the workplace?
Yeah, every veteran's story is different. And I said earlier, 95% of soldiers never pull triggers. So your assumption that we're going to be trained killers, we're going to be rigid, we're going to be on the battlefield, that's invalid. And so challenge people's thoughts process on that. Ask them open-ended questions. Why do you see it that way? In fact, 95% of the military forces are warfighter supporters. They're logistics. They cook, they clean, they turn wrenches. Whatever it is, and they're in IT, they have skill sets that are applicable to what we do today. They also are dynamic in that they have to, we said it earlier, constant change is coming down, so they have to adjust on the fly and readapt. And those are all critical skill sets in the corporate environment. So I would, in a respectful way, if you can, challenge the thinking. Tell me why you think that. I've had a great conversation, or I've listened to this and it made me think about things differently. Would you be open to that? And having those open, frank conversations. That's that inclusivity environment that we live in today. You're not going to change everyone's mind, and everyone they're entitled to their own opinions and the way they think about things. And frankly, that's why I went to war, is that we live in the greatest country so that we can have those opinions and thoughts, and we're not sheltered from that. So just challenge them openly, I think.
Thank you. Shelley, you're up.
Hi, Eric, and thank you. That was, I'm going to use a term I haven't used this year, astounding, and really great. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
My comment / question is, I see a lot of similarities in I'm in HR. So one thing that's a challenge is when you're having someone who's an operational subject matter expert in the lab, working with the animals, and there's an interest in having them transition into leadership as a frontline people leader. And I hear a lot of good examples in just the way that you have described really complex scenarios at the lowest common denominator, very simply.
Yep.
How are you? And I just see that as a really good outline for guiding people to learn how to use their real language instead of feeling like they need to convert to corporate speech.
Yep.
As a leader. The first day they're a supervisor. I wonder if there's some specific tools, or if you can just solve that for me. That challenge.
The language challenge.
Transitioning.
The language challenge, or going from frontline to manager.
Yep.
Yeah, it's different, right? Similar. I'll take a different spin at first here. I think I had on one of my slides that acronyms are soul killers or soul crushers. There's so many acronyms in the military, and then you come to corporate world, and we all have our own acronyms in the corporate world. And for veterans, that's a real challenge, and that's where they get anxiety and frustration. Then when you go from frontline contributor to, you're really based in the standard work operating procedures or whatever it is, then you move to the leadership level where it's really about the people. I think it's, how do you translate that? At some point, somebody has to be able to emulate what right looks like. And I had fantastic mentors throughout my entire career, whether it be in the military or in the civilian sector at Liberty Mutual. I can point to someone that was doing things the right way and getting people to follow them and saying the right things and being open to inclusive conversations and leading people with humility, but also getting the job done as well and being seen as a leader that can execute. I think if people don't have mentors or something that they can emulate what right looks like, and maybe that's training that you all put on across the Charles River if you're trying to get someone to that next level or whatever it is, but you have to have a model. It's like growing up as a kid. If you don't have some type of model that is directing you in a positive direction, you're gonna not necessarily adapt the skill sets and capabilities that are gonna make you successful. And I don't see it any differently at that transition from the frontline employee to the team manager level.
Thank you. You really nailed it with it's the people. I mean, that really just captures it. So that transition. Thank you.
Something came to my mind too while I was speaking for another question that we had about the veteran who's getting ready to retire. When I first came back from combat, my mom put together a coming home party. It was the second day that I got home from Iraq. And I can tell you that's super overwhelming. So, there was a kid at that coming home party that asked me, is killing someone like playing Call of Duty? And just the amount of people around and that question and the overwhelming feeling that I had at that moment, I ran away, ran upstairs, locked the door, and wanted everyone to go home. that same feeling could happen for that veteran as they make that transition. So give them grace, give them space as well.
It's still so shocking that you get asked that question. I'm still grappling with that, and I'm sorry. It's horrible. Ben, let's move on to you. I see your hand up.
Yeah, Eric, thank you so much for bringing us into your world. Yeah,
Thanks, Ben.
I really appreciate that. Again, I'm not a veteran myself. However, I've worked with a lot of them. Is there, are there special skills or that being a veteran, we have kind of, that you can bring into the workforce, just because you're a veteran? Is there something that you can take that will make your life easier in terms of management, because we hear a lot about military, in terms of discipline, in terms of this, in terms of that. And when you walk into, come into the workspace, people look at those things, no excuses. We want the results, all those ones. So, but I know at times it can be difficult to balance. But can you help us understand some of those qualities that you think coming out of the military or will help you to adapt into the workspace?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think as the veteran, you first got to give yourself grace and time. It's going to take you a minute to adjust. And I think the skill set that they bring are that they lived in a culture where mission dictated everything that they do, and they had to deliver. There was no alternative. Sometimes alternative was death. And so you had to deliver whatever the mission was. And so those skills are innate inside of them. Now it's how do they translate that to the corporate environment? And so it's going to take time. They've got to adjust. They've got to be open to feedback and really know that they're going to misstep at times, or they're not going to say the right thing, or they're not going to raise their hand because they are, they're designed to not want to ask questions. They're going to learn that some of the things that they say, like we use a knife hand a lot, and so when we speak, we throw a knife hand out there. Like that's not applicable to the corporate world. And I wouldn't say my subordinate, I've learned that a few times in my corporate world is, I would say my subordinate, that doesn't necessarily really work in the corporate environment. They're going to stumble as they go through those things. But what you'll find is they put people first. They have empathy. They will get the mission done as long as you give them what your parameters are. And they'll go the extra mile for you. As long as veterans feel included, you ask them those questions that I said as being an ally, and you go in with a genuine inquisitive mindset, you're going to get those skills out of them, and you're going to find them delivering time and time again for you, because that's just the way they were raised. In the military, we have loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Those are our values. Those are what's instilled in you within day one. Every branch in the military has something very similar. And if you can tap into those as the manager of that veteran, or you can recognize that that veteran has those skill sets, they just might show up differently, and you learn how to adapt to a world that they're coming from, you're going to gain tremendous amount of qualities and skills and characters. Did that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's like getting a cheat sheet from you.
Really, really powerful. Do we have any other questions? Steve, I know you were thinking of one. Go ahead.
Hi, Eric. Thanks so much for this presentation. It just rang a lot of harmonic chords with me, and I hear what you're saying and understand it at a level I'm sure you can guess. One challenge I had when first transitioning to the civilian workplace was in leadership style. And it took a lot of trial and error and work and practice to adjust my leadership style to one that was even remotely acceptable in the modern workplace, and I did not do a very good job of it for a long time. Do you have any, I don't want to use the word shortcut, but do you have any advice on how a transitioning veteran can relate to his new workmates to accomplish the appropriate leadership style, or on the other side, for new civilian workmates trying to relate to a new veteran joining their team, or share any challenges that you had in this regard?
Yeah, I've had all kinds of them, and I kind of alluded to it in that last one, Steve, but with, you know, calling people my subordinate and using knife hands and all of that. Those are my you know, my mistakes and things I've left behind in the past, and I've had to learn through difficult conversations. But what I'll say is, you know, I'll reflect and say you need, again, if you're a veteran coming into the workforce and maybe you're asked to come in as a leader, or maybe you're a frontliner, understand what Charles River's looking for. And if they've got a high performer, you need to get paired with that person immediately to understand what makes them a high performer in the Charles River culture, right? Because it's different. And if you're coming as a leader and your leadership style is the militaristic leadership style, understand what Charles River values as a leader. They see something in you, they hired you as a leader, but they also have their high performers there at Charles River, and you should be paired immediately with them, and you should understand what makes them work well in that environment, because it's not, and that should be your battle buddy, that should be your mentor, the one you can say, here's how I would think about it in the military. They'll be able to tell you that's not going to translate well. You know, you got to find that person you can trust, but the veteran has to ask for help. And I think that, again, this goes back, veterans don't ask for help. And so you got to be humble enough to raise your hand and say, I was trained with all these skills, but I'm moving into a new sector that I don't really know much about, and I need support. And that's incumbent upon the company and the veteran to place the help there for them. And then I think you lean on the skills that you were given. You know, lead with empathy and personability, and be intentional to connect with people. That's going to be, sometimes that's a struggle, because in the military we don't think about that first. We think about mission and we think about execution. Those are hard words in the corporate world, and so I'd say set those aside and think about that human first. And if you start leading with humility and human first, you can be a tough boss. My employees will tell you I'm a tough boss, and they think it's from the military. But I'm also fair, and I'm very connected to my people. And my EMPS score is at 75. If you guys know anything about EMPS, that is off the charts. And that's because I hold them accountable, but I'm relatable. And I ask about their family, I ask about who they are, I get to know them, and I'm available. And I think those are key skills that you need to bring to the corporate workforce.
Thank you.
I think that's so important in creating a culture of belonging. I think you've inspired many people to learn more about veterans and hopefully join our ERG. And additionally, maybe give back a bit. So we want to show an opportunity coming up where our employees can volunteer. It is a virtual opportunity, so everyone on the call will have a chance to do so. Christina, thanks for popping it in the chat as well. But just really wanted to flag, and I will go in reverse order, but we have a virtual volunteering event on the 12th. You can create holiday greeting cards for veterans and active duty personnel. Anyone can do this from your computer. Please join us. It's just an hour, and you get to log those VTO hours. And then your opportunity to, of course, join the Veterans ERG. The link's there. You can join it through Cronus, but Cronus does integrate with Teams, so it's a really great user experience if you use the mobile app, or if you want to pull that into your teams in order to engage with our ERGs. And then finally, I'll plug for next month, our Disability and Neurodiversity ERG is hosting a session on unlocking accessibility in Microsoft 365. We will have a guest presenter from Microsoft coming in to talk about accessibility. And I want to plug this because sometimes people think, well, I don't need accessibility, so I don't need to attend the session. but really we're all creating content every day, whether it's PowerPoint or a Word document or whatever else. And so if we can learn the tips and tricks so that other people can use our content, that is incredibly powerful. And so I truly invite you all to come and learn some tips and tricks, not just with accessibility, but also to make things a bit more neuro-inclusive as well for folks with neurodivergence. So those are coming up. Eric, thank you. This was absolutely incredible. I know I learned so much. I can tell from the comments that folks on the phone learned so much. You were incredibly vulnerable with your story. And I thank you for that, because it really does make an impact, that storytelling and that, you know, real slice of life. I don't think for many of us we would ever know that. And so truly appreciate you sharing the ups and the downs so that we can better understand the life of a person in the military.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine, and I'll thank the Charles River team for having me today. And what I'll say is, vets, if you haven't gotten involved in the ERG, it was huge for me. When I took off the uniform, it became that belonging for me. I got connected with folks that served. I've built lifelong friendships. I've got battle buddies now I can go to when days are hard. And we've done incredible things in that space. You know, we've helped homeless, we've built houses, we've done amazing things in the ERG space. And I think the power of veterans coming together and then allies joining and really asking questions and understanding, it becomes a really powerful community. And we've done things that I never thought were possible in the ERG space and change culture at Liberty Mutual. And I think you can do very similar things at Charles River if necessary. So just my plug, get involved. I know veterans sometimes like to stay sheltered, but you can make a huge difference.
Wonderful, thank you. And one last plug, if you are in the US and you are self-identified veteran in our system, you do get Veterans Day off, or you work with your manager, you do get that 8 hours of volunteer time. So it's another reason to self-ID in the platform. So thank you all, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Eric.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you all, I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, team.
Thank you.
Hey, Eric, just wanted to say thanks again at the end.
Yeah, of course. How'd it go? Do you think it was overall what you
I
guys
think
wanted?
It was a hit.
Awesome.
It was a good job by you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I appreciate you all having me, and hopefully we made some impact to the team, and we got some folks wanting to join and go in that direction. But I felt I couldn't really keep up with the chat while I was going, but it felt engaging. So
It was very engaged. Yeah, we were watching the chat for you. Good luck in everything you do, and thank you for coming and talking to us. And I'll look for you on LinkedIn, and we'll connect.
Will do. And happy Veterans Day to you, Steve.
Happy Veterans Day, brother. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.